Sometimes it's always good to have a refreshing, authentic approach to a movie. It really is. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Ezra, the newest film from director Tony Goldwyn. Alright, everyone. Ezra is a film about a young autistic kid who, of course, is played by William Fitzgerald. He's an individual that is dealing with realistic problems when it comes to autism and the autism spectrum and stuff like that. And his parents are individuals that are given a realistic approach when it comes to these types of films. One's played by Byrne, who plays the mother, and of course Bobby Cannavale, who plays the father, who's a comedian. And in the process of everything, an incident happens at school. They decide they may have to put him into a special needs school. But Bobby Cannavale's character is an individual that wants to protect his son, wants to give him realistic opportunities. So he does what most people would do in life, or at least want to do, is take his kid away to do that. So he takes him in a Rain Man approach, takes on him a road trip, and they kind of bond over, the ideas of what this kid has to go through and what the father feels is the right thing to do, even though he's under a court order from some recent events. And of course, the grandfather is played by Robert De Niro is like, you can't do this. And the mother is like, you can't do this. And he's like, I'm going to do this. And it's that type of film. And once again, it becomes a road trip about a father and son who try to connect in a world where people don't really understand the autism community or the spectrum nature, and therefore that's what this movie represents in a lot of respects. So, like myself, Ezra was not a film I knew much about. It's one of those films that when I saw the poster for it, to be fairly honest, it felt like one of those direct-to-video movies where they got a lot of big actors because they threw money at them, to be fairly honest. That's how I looked at this film from the beginning. I really didn't know much about it. But when you learn more and more about this film, Ezra, you learn that, one, it's directed by Tony Goldwyn, who I appreciate as a director and actor. And he has actors who want to make a film or a movie that approaches a realistic nature to this community that deals with autism, the nature of like how people don't understand the autism. So therefore, it's a film that I actually, from the trailer, was interested in watching because you have Bobby Cannavale, who's fantastic as an actor, very underappreciated, Byrne, who's been in a lot of great films recently, Robert De Niro, of course, and then on top of that, you have some glorified cameos by people like Whoopi Goldberg, Vera Farmiga, and Rainn Wilson. So it's a film that felt that it was going to have the star power, but it's also a film that, from what I've read, Tony Goldwyn wanted to approach authentically when it came to dealing with the situation. So he hired a kid who is a autistic kid, played by William Fitzgerald. So that, to me personally, feels like Tony Goldwyn is going for a much more grounded approach, unlike something like I Am Sam or something that deals with the autism spectrum. In the nature of like being really over the top, really Hollywoodized and stuff like that. It was one of those films that really felt like it was going to be very, very idealistic in a lot of approaches and stuff like that. And on top of that, it's very small in its film nature. And it has people like Robert De Niro starring in it, which I'm not saying Robert De Niro wouldn't star in a film like this. I'm just saying like you could tell that this felt really important to him. It really felt really important to the other actors. So going into it, I had optimism that this film was going to be pretty decent. So with that said, my honest review of this movie is it's a pretty good film, to be fairly honest. It has its problems when it comes to the true authenticity of like the world around it. I do feel like it's very Hollywoodized when it comes to the character development and like the nature of the Rain Man approach. That was the one thing as much as I love Rain Man, that is the thing where it feels very fantastical. It's like he just takes the guy out of the place and takes him on the road trip, and that just doesn't feel very authentic. But outside of that, like this movie stands on its own based just solely alone of the people that are in this movie, the actors and stuff like that. I think William Fitzgerald, who plays Ezra, is absolutely fantastic in this movie. I think there is a realistic, authentic approach to his character, and you really feel like and really, truly believe that this individual is going through these types of situations. And I think having somebody like Bobby Cannavale, who's a very underrated actor, really helps that authenticity, because there is a level of sincerity, there's a level of prose, there's a level of just like heart grabbing, I guess you could say, in a lot of respects, to what they're doing. I think the chemistry between the two individuals is absolutely fantastic, and I think it's a film that won't, garner any Oscar nominations, but I think it does it does the characters, it does the nature of what the situation is well. It does it well, I should say, in a lot of respects, and I do appreciate that for what it's worth. You know, it's a film like similar to like Simon Birch, where it does lean into like the very heartwarming, very schmaltzy material when it comes to like what the kid has to deal with and what the father has to deal with. It's especially prevalent in the Rose Byrne character, who's not the strongest character in the movie, but Rose Byrne's character, the mother character, does a nice job of portraying the very worrisome, the nature of like being the more realistic of the two individuals, because the Bobby Cannavale character, the father's character, is an individual that just kind of leads by his head, or not by his head, but by his heart instead of his head. So therefore, he makes decisions that aren't what you would call the most realistic in a lot of respects, the most what he should be doing. Instead of being a father, he's being more like trying to be the super dad in a lot of respects. But it's once again, going back to Rose Byrne, it's a really authentically emotional performance that has to do a lot. It doesn't get a lot of appreciation in a lot of respects, but once again, it's not the most showy performance, so it's just kind of what it is. But another standout, of course, is Robert De Niro, who really doesn't need to be standout because he's Robert De Niro, but he plays the grandfather, and he does a really nice job of just like being conflicted and being torn between the world of the realism of what this kid has to go through and protecting his son when basically the father kidnaps the son to go on this road trip to Jimmy Kimmel Live. And I love the dichotomy of what Robert De Niro does, because it's very understated. It's not his most showy performance, but it is what Robert De Niro does now, where he is a grandfather who is trying to make up for the past problems that he had with his son, but he's also a grandfather that truly loves his grandson and truly wants to protect his grandson, but also is conflicted in that nature. So I think Robert De Niro does a fantastic job, for better or worse, in this movie, and I think it really, really shows his level of like how he loves this grandson. And once again, all these actors really show an authentic side to portraying this in a very heartfelt and respectful manner in a lot of respects. I think the other main problem of this movie is just the cameos. I think Tony Goldwyn has a lot of clout in Hollywood, so he's able to garner, funds for his movies. He's able to get his celebrity friends in the movies. So I do appreciate that Whoopi Goldberg, who he worked with in Ghost. I appreciate Vera Farmiga and Rainn Wilson. But I think you could do those performances with people that aren't as well known in Hollywood in a lot of respects, and I think it would be more authentic, because here it feels like it's going down that Hollywoodized route of being, oh, I have all these people, I have all these actors I know, will you come be in my movie so I can garner a bigger audience? And I don't think that lends well to a film, to be fairly honest. So that's my kind of biggest gripe of the film, is just having those three actors and to be in this movie. I think you already have enough star power in the main actors that having those being three characters as like 3 or 4 minute cameos really doesn't work. And then on top of that, there is a cameo at the end, which I won't spoil in case you want to see this movie, which I think is really blatantly kind of gross, to be fairly honest. I think it is we need to do this, we need to have this, and it's during the credit sequence, and I really didn't like it. I think it tries to go for cheap laughs, and I think it takes away from the authenticity of the movie, which should be focused on these two individuals, this kid and his father, as well as the mother and the grandfather, but it doesn't. It just goes for a cheap kind of I see. Okay, you did the thing, and I don't like that. I didn't like the fact that he's a comedian on the cusp of like going to the Jimmy Kimmel show, which I don't think they needed. But in the end, to kind of conclude this review, I think this is still a pretty good film. I still think it's a pretty entertaining film. I think it's a film with a few flaws, and I think it does is a little inauthentic when it comes to that type of the storytelling matter. But I think the main characters, do a really nice job, and I think they are portrayed very, very well, very, very respectfully, and I think Tony Goldwyn does a really nice job as a director of portraying that. So overall, I still recommend the film. Just know going in, those are my flaws of the film. So overall, still recommend Ezra. Anyways, with that said, that'll do it. That'll be my take on Ezra. Thank you so much for watching. Comments below, what do you think of this film if you've seen it? If you have, let me know if you liked it. If not, let me know why. Otherwise, if you like what you see on this video, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell, top to find coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.